Hello. So I am still figuring out filming situation for my new apartment. So disembodied hands it is this season. I hope you're having a good Preptober. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do this kind of video for a year. No joke. I originally planned to do this last year and then I just couldn't get around to it because the initial plan was to do 2 outlines and I was going to do them both on completely new original projects. Instead, I was really drawn to one of my old ones because I knew it needed complete rewrite, restructure, because just like Project Clockwork, that thing was finished when I was quite young and it just lacks a proper structure. It didn't even have a B story, to be honest with you. And that's a problem. It was too two-dimensional, it wasn't 3D, so we need to fix quite a lot. So here we are, we're gonna have 3 different outlines that I'm going to go through. So I went ahead and did some draft stuff of all of these methods and I'm going to write out a nicer version because this is true chaos and it's all over the place. But I've got a lot of thoughts and let's just bunk them out. So we are gonna start with the plot embryo method, also sometimes called the story circle. Then we're going to get into mice and then we're going to finish it all up with the save the cat. So if you're interested in my thoughts on all 3 of these right up against each other and my feelings on it, just keep watching. Let's go. Okay, so I've got some thoughts on this one. Now, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I knew that the plot embryo was going to cause me the most hassle. So, when I originally thought about getting into it, I did consider circling back. So when I did my original draft for this, the story, like, this did not work. This was the first draft I attempted of the plot embryo. Because this was the first outlining method I tried, I knew that it was going to be finicky, but it was really bad. Like, this original circle just became the original story that is flawed. So my original story, first of all, lacks a B story. It lacks undercurrent. It only has the upper current. And this did nothing to help that. This stayed on upper current. What I kind of learned through this is that plot embryo really struggles by itself, at least for me. I ended up having to go to the other methods, and then once I went through all the other methods, then I had to circle back to this one again, try it a second time. Still felt kind of off because visually all these pieces look the same size, which they should not be. So I made this, where the different sectors are different sizes. The 2 biggest sectors are search and find. I'm not sure, like the inner circles, I don't think these are the right size now. Pretty much I feel like I have to completely overhaul how the embryo visually looks in order for the embryo to actually make sense. Even now, like, I don't like how these are partialed out. I had to like slip this in here somewhere. I'm not sure which box it would go into. It just, I don't think this works for my kind of story. Let's try the others. Okay. So the mice was the one that I was the most sure of. I was pretty sure that I could get something out of the mice because I've used it before. However, I will say that I didn't feel like this was enough to do a story on. This is kind of like the bare bones structure of a lot of the like background sequencing. So like this would be the order of operations, not necessarily for really intensive outlines. Now you can do more intensive outlines with mice. I do think you can. However, I couldn't find a way to do that without it feeling not right. So this was the closest I could get, and it's a very bare bones version of M.I.C.E, but it works for what I'm using it for. But it does feel incomplete, like it's missing a lot of nuanced information. So that's where Save the Cat's gonna come in. Now, I was kind of surprised by that because out of all of the methods, this is the only method that didn't start out as a method for screenplays. We're gonna go ahead and jump to Save the Cat because I think it's gonna provide the nuance that this lacks. That being said, I'm glad I did this in the middle. And the reason I'm glad I ended up doing this in the middle is because this ended up being something I referenced when working with the Save the Cat one, which I did not expect to be doing, but yeah. So let's go ahead and move on to Save the Cat. All right. This was definitely the longest. So, like I said, I ended up kind of using the M.I.C.E to aid me with Save the Cat. So the M.I.C.E kind of gave me the question and sequences that I needed. And then when I went in to do Save the Cat and put in all of the detailed information, it made sense. And then I would just refer to M.I.C.E to make sure I was in track for all of the boom, 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 like, you know, losing the knight's trust is mirroring learning to trust the knight. Like, didn't expect Save the Cat to be as useful as it was, but I also didn't expect to refer back to M.I.C.E in order to complete this, specifically the end. The end part with Dark Night of the Soul, everything for All Is Lost, Dark Night of the Soul, this whole part is a mirror of the opening. Still some stuff I need to fill in terms of some really gritty details, like exactly how my main character is going to attempt to assassinate leader. Like the exact how, like, does she want to kill him with a stab wound? Like what? Like, you know. So I've got some of that stuff to suss out, but I'm really impressed with this. Honestly, the combination of these two is what actually made this work. I don't think I would use either of these by themselves. Like I said, I do think there are ways to have a more detailed version of M.I.C.E, but for some reason that really overwhelmed me. So having a shortened version of M.I.C.E, like a Cliff Notes version of M.I.C.E in a way, and pairing that with a more detailed, nuanced Save the Cat was really useful. At least for me personally. So yeah, that's all of it. Why is this sticker here? What is this even from? Oh, is it from my teapot? Anyway, I found a sticker on one of my things. I took it off. Anyway, I thought this was really useful. Do I think that you should be doing 3 different outlines for a singular project? Not really, unless you're doing what I'm doing and you're trying them all out, trying to figure out what works for you personally. But honestly, I don't think 3 outlines is necessary. I think it is a bit of overkill. I have a really good, clear idea of my story, so it's not like it doesn't have benefit. I'm glad I did this, but it is overkill. Like, I need y'all to know. Like, I don't think anyone needs to do what I did. I think this is a lot. Honestly, at the end of the day, I say this a lot, but like I'll say it again, but these are just tools. And everyone's a little different. And actually, your projects are going to be different. Like, Plot Embryo was horrible for this project. It did not work at all, pretty much. It was the one thing that I feel like completely failed. That being said, I'm sure this probably does work for some stories out there. It just doesn't work for this one. So if Plot Embryo works for you, chill, but I just don't think it works for every project. I don't think any of this stuff will work great for every single project. I think things like M.I.C.E are a little bit better in that, at the very least, it forces you to think about the bigger questions and make sure you actually complete those and get to the heart of it. So like if you're doing your theme and stuff like that, you need to have that for M.I.C.E to work. So I think it kind of forces you to do something that's really critical. But to be perfectly honest with you, there are other outlining methods that I'm sure have something similar. So honestly, depends on what makes your brain happy, makes your brain work. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys are prepared for NaNoWriMo. Let me know in the comments down below what kinds of outline systems you use, if you use any at all, if you don't believe in them. I'm kind of curious. And have a great Preptober.